This story is not about exposing secrets or assigning blame. It is about revealing the emotional reality behind a life the world believed it already understood. Fame creates an illusion of perfection, but behind it live ordinary human struggles: fear, loneliness, pride, resilience, and growth. What follows is a deeply human summary of a marriage lived under a microscope, shaped by love, mistakes, public judgment, and survival. It is not a fairy tale, nor a tragedy, but a long journey of two people learning how to endure storms without losing themselves or each other. The illusion of the perfect life. From the outside, the Beckhams appeared to have everything: beauty, success, wealth, admiration, and a growing family. People assumed happiness was guaranteed, yet perfection was only a surface image. Behind it lived constant pressure, fear of loss, and emotional isolation. Being admired by millions did not protect Victoria from doubt or insecurity. Fame amplified every weakness and magnified every rumor. The expectation to smile through pain became its own burden. This phase of life was marked by silent endurance, where maintaining an image mattered more than expressing truth. The illusion wasn't just created by the public, it was sustained by silence. Over time, that silence became heavier than criticism. Living inside perfection meant denying vulnerability, and that denial slowly eroded emotional safety. What the world called a dream felt increasingly like a role that demanded sacrifice without offering refuge. Love born from shared loneliness. Victoria and David's connection did not begin with glamour or status. It began with recognition. Both were young, successful, and deeply lonely. Despite living under bright lights, they carried private emptiness. Their conversations were not about fame, but about isolation and identity. This bond was powerful because it came from shared vulnerability rather than admiration. Their love was not built on perfection, but on mutual understanding of pressure and fear. Falling in love felt like finding shelter in someone who understood the cost of public life. This foundation made their relationship intense and meaningful, but also fragile. When two people rely on each other to fill emotional voids created by external pressure, the bond can feel essential, but overwhelming. Their early love carried hope, yet it also carried the risk of losing oneself within the relationship. Marriage and the loss of identity. Marriage transformed Victoria's public identity almost overnight. Once recognized for her own achievements, she became primarily known as someone's wife. This shift affected her deeply. Interviews stopped asking about her ambitions and focused instead on her role beside David. The loss was not about status, but voice. Her individuality felt slowly erased. While marriage brought love and family, it also demanded compromises she wasn't prepared for. The fear wasn't of her husband, but of disappearing into a supporting role. Over time, the imbalance created emotional strain. Being strong meant staying silent. Being loyal meant minimizing her own needs. This period marked the beginning of internal conflict between devotion and self-preservation. The marriage existed, but the woman inside it felt increasingly unseen. Distance and the Madrid years. When David moved to Madrid, life did not simply change location. It changed rhythm, balance, and emotional gravity. What once felt like a shared journey slowly became two parallel lives moving at different speeds. For David, Madrid symbolized professional opportunity, a chance to grow, to test himself in a new environment, and to fulfill a lifelong ambition. For Victoria, it represented something entirely different: isolation wrapped in obligation. While David adapted to a new team and culture, she was left carrying the weight of daily life: children, schedules, constant travel, and the invisible work of holding a family together from afar. The physical distance quickly became emotional distance. Conversations became rushed, shaped by time zones and exhaustion. The ordinary moments that sustain relationships, shared meals, small check-ins, quiet routines, began to disappear. Without those anchors, misunderstandings grew more easily, and reassurance became harder to find. Victoria wasn't just missing her husband, she was missing a partner in the truest sense. Someone to share decisions with, to sit beside her when things felt heavy, to notice when she was nearing her limit. Travel drained her. Each trip between countries felt like an attempt to glue something together that kept slipping apart. The children felt the instability too, moving between places without the comfort of consistency. Home no longer felt like a place. It felt like a temporary arrangement. Love still existed, but presence did not. And without presence, fear and doubt quietly settled in. This period revealed a painful truth. Even strong relationships can weaken when balance is lost, and careers are allowed to outweigh connection. The shock of public scandal. When rumors surfaced in 2004, they didn't arrive gently. They arrived like an explosion, tearing through privacy and leaving no space to breathe. The pain was not limited to the content of the allegations. It was magnified, but by exposure. What should have remained private became public spectacle almost overnight. Victoria had no time to process what she felt, no space to ask herself what she believed, before the world demanded a reaction. Headlines replaced conversations. Strangers debated her marriage as if it were fiction. Every article felt invasive, stripping away dignity piece by piece. Whether the rumors were true or exaggerated mattered less than the reality that damage was already done. Trust wavered, but humiliation cut deeper. The feeling of being watched, judged, and dissected turned pain into performance. There was no room for confusion, reflection, or grief, only pressure to appear composed. What made this moment especially devastating was the loneliness it created. Support came with conditions. Sympathy often carried curiosity. People wanted statements, not silence. Drama, not healing. Victoria found herself trapped in a story she never agreed to tell. This was the point where the marriage began to fracture in a new way. Not because of what happened between two people, but because of what happened around them. External pressure became an active force, pushing against an already strained bond and making repair feel nearly impossible. Isolation. Under public judgment. As media attention intensified, isolation became Victoria's constant companion. She wasn't only dealing with uncertainty inside her marriage, she was navigating relentless scrutiny from the outside. Every public appearance was analyzed, every expression interpreted. Silence was read as guilt, composure as coldness. There was no correct way to exist. Support felt conditional, offered only if it satisfied public curiosity. This kind of isolation is uniquely cruel because it happens in plain sight. Surrounded by people, cameras, and commentary, Victoria felt emotionally abandoned. No one asked how she was coping beyond how it fit a headline. No one asked what it felt like to wake up each day knowing your private life had become public property. The expectation was simple and unforgiving: endure. At home, she had to remain strong for her children, shielding them from the noise while quietly absorbing it herself. There was no room to fall apart. That emotional restraint came at a cost. Over time, neglecting one's own pain doesn't make it disappear. It deepens it. The marriage struggled not only because of shaken trust, but because the surrounding environment offered no space to heal. Healing requires privacy, patience, and compassion. Under constant judgment, none of those were available. This period left lasting marks. It taught her how deeply public pressure can shape private relationships, and how isolation can exist even at the center of attention. Most of all, it revealed that endurance without understanding is not strength, it is survival. Cracks beneath the surface. As time passed, the relationship didn't collapse dramatically. It eroded quietly. Conversations lost warmth. Understanding faded. Arguments were subdued but constant. The pain was no longer explosive. It was numbing. Loneliness became routine. Victoria realized marriages don't fail from one event, but from prolonged emotional distance. The absence of shared understanding was more painful than scandal itself. She wasn't angry. She was exhausted. The realization that love alone could not restore connection forced her to confront uncomfortable truths about compatibility, communication, and sacrifice. anger, and self-reclamation. Eventually, grief turned into anger, not toward David, but toward the situation. Victoria recognized how much she had given up. Her anger was rooted in injustice, not resentment. She was famous, successful, and capable, yet treated as disposable. This awakening sparked a need to reclaim identity. Speaking her truth became necessary for survival. This wasn't rebellion, it was self-preservation. Acknowledging resentment was painful, but honest. It marked the beginning of regaining her voice. Without confrontation, healing was impossible. This phase wasn't about blame, but about acknowledging damage that silence had allowed to grow. Choosing family over escape. At her lowest point, Victoria seriously considered leaving, not to end the marriage, but to escape the environment that was slowly breaking her down. The noise, the judgment, the constant pressure to be strong in public while unraveling in private all became too much to bear. Leaving felt, for a moment, like the only way to breathe again. Not a dramatic ending, not a statement, just distance from the pain that surrounded her daily life. What stopped her was not fear nor lack of options. It was motherhood. Her children became the anchor that kept her grounded when everything else felt unstable. She understood that while she was hurting, their emotional safety mattered more than her need to run. Children sense disruption, even when adults try to hide it. She worried about what sudden absence, upheaval, or uncertainty might do to them. In that realization, her focus shifted outward. Choosing to stay was not an act of weakness. It was an act of responsibility. Victoria stayed because she wanted to protect a sense of normalcy for her family, even when her own inner world felt chaotic. This decision required restraint, patience, and emotional sacrifice. It meant living with unresolved pain rather than escaping it. That kind of choice does not come from passivity. It comes from maturity shaped by suffering. Staying did not magically repair the marriage or erase the damage that had been done, but it preserved something fragile and essential: the possibility of rebuilding. By choosing stability over impulse, Victoria allowed time to become an ally rather than an enemy. Time to reflect, to heal slowly, and to determine whether the relationship could be reshaped into something stronger and more honest. In choosing family over escape, she chose the harder path, and one that demanded quiet strength every single day. New battles beyond the marriage. As public attention gradually faded, many assumed the worst was over. In reality, a new struggle quietly took its place. With the marriage no longer the sole focus of pressure, Victoria turned inward, questioning her own identity beyond her role as a wife and mother. She wanted something that belonged to her alone, something that affirmed her independence, creativity, and worth. Her ambitions in the fashion world became that outlet. What began as passion soon transformed into relentless pursuit. The industry was harsh, competitive, and unforgiving. Early setbacks and financial losses struck deeply, chipping away at her confidence. Each failure felt both personal and public, reinforcing old insecurities that had never fully healed. Determination slowly blurred into obsession. Victoria worked tirelessly, driven by a need to prove that she was more than a headline or a supportive spouse. She wanted success not just for achievement, but for validation. In that state, rest felt like weakness, and doubt felt dangerous. She pushed forward even when exhaustion set in. But ambition, fueled by insecurity, carries a cost. The dream that once felt empowering began to strain the family. Time, energy, and emotional presence were consumed by the pursuit. What was meant to establish independence began to create distance. This phase revealed a difficult truth. Ambition, when driven by fear rather than balance, can damage relationships just as deeply as betrayal. Victoria was not chasing success alone. Her family was carrying the weight with her, and while she believed she was building something meaningful, she didn't immediately see how the pressure was affecting those closest to her. The battle had shifted, but the stakes remained deeply personal: financial strain and emotional distance. As the fashion venture grew more demanding, financial strain quietly entered the relationship. Money became an unspoken source of tension. Investments were made with hope, but shadowed by anxiety. David supported her dreams, but that support came with an imbalance that neither of them knew how to address openly. Gratitude mixed with guilt. Encouragement mixed with silent worry. Every financial decision began to carry emotional weight. Losses felt heavier than numbers on a balance sheet. They felt like personal failures that impacted the entire family. Victoria began to realize that her pursuit was no longer affecting just her confidence. It was affecting trust. She wasn't only risking money, she was risking the emotional stability they had worked so hard to protect. This realization arrived slowly and painfully. Love began to feel intertwined with obligation. Support felt heavy rather than freeing. Both carried stress quietly, each unwilling to burden the other further. Conversations that needed to happen were postponed in the name of peace. Silence became a coping mechanism. Just as it had in earlier chapters of their lives, this pattern mirrored past mistakes. Once again, lack of communication deepened wounds that could have been addressed sooner. The issue was not failure itself. Failure is inevitable in any creative or entrepreneurial journey. The real damage came from isolation, from carrying fear alone, from believing that strength meant silence. In facing this, Victoria began to understand that rebuilding a relationship requires more than endurance. It requires honesty, vulnerability, and shared responsibility. Financial strain did not have to be the breaking point, but emotional distance could be. The lesson was clear and difficult. Problems grow when they are faced alone. Healing begins when they are faced together. Seeing each other clearly again. Eventually, exhaustion forced honesty. Both acknowledged pain without accusation. They recognized mutual suffering. This shift changed everything. Blame dissolved into empathy. They stopped performing roles and started sharing reality. For the first time in years, they saw each other not as symbols, but as humans struggling under pressure. This mutual recognition reopened emotional connection. Healing began not with solutions, but with listening. It wasn't dramatic, it was quiet and sincere. Leaving to begin again. The move to Los Angeles marked renewal. It wasn't escape, it was intention. David chose family over image. The environment allowed space to breathe. Distance from European media helped restore normalcy. Laughter returned. Routine stabilized. The marriage wasn't repaired instantly, but it softened. This transition showed how environment affects emotional health. Sometimes healing requires change, not because you're running, but because staying means suffocating. Growth through shared resilience. In LA, their relationship transformed. They supported each other differently. Questions shifted from success to well-being. Shared vulnerability replaced silence. Pain was no longer hidden. This stage wasn't about forgetting the past, but integrating it. They became stronger not by erasing scars, but by understanding them. Their bond matured into partnership rather than dependency. Love evolved into choice. Redefining success and identity. With time, both found peace in redefined success. David's legacy moved beyond the pitch. Victoria's brand stabilized without desperation. Their identities became independent yet connected. They no longer needed validation from the public. Family became priority. Quiet replaced chaos. This phase represented emotional maturity earned through hardship. The storms shaped them, but did not define them. A family built on truth, not perfection. Today, their family stands not as an ideal, but as real. The children grew up witnessing struggle, not illusion. They learned resilience, honesty, and commitment. The marriage survived, not because it was flawless, but because it endured. The lesson is simple yet profound. Love alone is not enough. Choice, effort, and empathy sustain relationships. There is no perfect family, only families that refuse to give up on one another.